Today's inflation figures spelled trouble, maybe some trouble for the governor. You see, the Reserve Bank governor, the Albanese government didn't want voters last time to blame them when the Reserve Bank kept lifting interest rates so often. So they made Bank Governor Philip Lowe a scapegoat and then showed him the door. But overnight, the new Reserve Bank governor said, whoa, she won't hesitate to lift interest rates herself.
The board won't hesitate to raise the cash rate further if there's a material upward revision to the outlook for inflation.
And just hours later, she got exactly that reason to lift rates on Melbourne Cup Day when they meet again. With inflation coming down, but not as much as predicted. It's still 5.4% over the year, thanks in large part to higher petrol prices. And now every analyst around is predicting a rate rise, but the Treasurer was today trying to hose things down.
It's really important to recognise that the annual inflation number that we have received today is in line with expectations. It's in line with the Treasury forecasts in the most recent budget, and it doesn't materially change. It doesn't change the Treasury's expectations for when inflation will return to the target band.
Joining me is the panel, Michael Costa, former New South Wales Labor Treasurer, and Garth Hamilton, Federal Liberal MP. Michael Costa, today's inflation figures, how big a problem are they for the government and for anyone with a mortgage?
I think they're a big problem, Andrew. And, I've been saying on your program for months now that I think they pulled up short at least one rate rise too soon. And I think these figures confirm that. I wouldn't be surprised to see a rate rise maybe next month or the month after. And the reason for that is the core inflation. And this is really not the inflation that's got anything to do with, all these external pressures that the Treasurer likes to focus on, is heading in the wrong direction. It's actually gone up slightly given the Reserve Bank's target rate. And look, the bottom line on all of this, unless you get unemployment rising, and I'm not advocating that, but it is one of the variables that people look at, your interest rate has got to be somewhere above the inflation rate. And you can see there's a lot of room in those parameters for additional rate rises. So I think they've got a real problem. And look, it's got nothing to do with the Treasury forecast either. I think that's a furphy. I mean, it's got to do with the RBA's perception, not the Treasury's perception of where inflation's going. So I'd expect another rate rise this side of Christmas.
Yes, not good. But Garth Hamilton, I mean, it's easy now to, slam the government. Everyone's going to be cross at the government, I guess. But what could it or should it be doing that it isn't doing already?
One thing it could start doing is listening. I mean, Jim Chalmers has shown he's got an incredible set of tin ears when it comes to the economy. People weren't interested in the voice. There were core issues affecting Australian households. And Michael's raised the issue of unemployment. Government could start working on productivity. We've seen that slump 6% over the last 12 months, an incredible decline. It's having a huge impact on our economy. And sadly, we're seeing these figures today coming through about inflation. There's worse to come. The IR legislation this government has put forward will absolutely have a downward impact on productivity. It will have an inflationary impact on the economy as well. And we haven't even seen the full impact of the price caps that they put on the gas industry. That will drive prices up in the long run. So there is worse to come from this government. They need to start focusing on these core issues of the economy instead of, as Jim tried to do, reinvent it with his 6,000-word essay.
Now, I said, gentlemen, before the break, I'd come across the most amazing example of ABC bias. Maybe it's an accident. I do not know. But Sabra Lane on the AM this morning, ABC AM, was discussing the fact that Hamas had released 2 of the Jewish hostages, had taken more than 200. Here she is saying, well, look, these women were saying they were treated beautifully. Here we go.
One of the 2 Israeli hostages freed yesterday has been telling her story to the world. 85-year-old Yochevev Lipchez says she was taken to a spiderweb of underground tunnels, that it was terrifying, but she was treated well in captivity.
And then they crossed to a correspondent who said, Ms. Lipschitz described the treatment as good, saying her captors made sure the conditions were sanitary. They were all very friendly to the people who'd been captured, and they took care of all their needs. What they never reported was that this poor woman said before they got to the coast she'd been beaten with sticks. And by the way, her husband is still there. I mean, what is going on, Michael?
Look, you're seeing across the left and the left-orientated media an incredible bias against Israel, and it's just transparent. It's not just in this country, by the way. The publicly funded media in the UK is doing exactly the same. The BBC's bias. I've been watching some of their stuff. It's just appalling the way they treat, Israeli spokespeople as criminals, as opposed to the real criminals, Hamas. So there's a real problem, but it reflects the sort of institutional biases that we've seen over decades in our main institutions. They hate Israel. There's anti-Semitism all over the place. They look for anything to humanise Hamas, a terrorist, an illegal terrorist group, and anything to criticise Israel. And we saw the fiasco over the hospital and the fiasco over the blocking of the passage out of the Gaza Strip. It's disgraceful, and it's happening across the board.
Now, like I said, this woman had been beaten with sticks, and a fact somehow missed in this ABC report. Here is their correspondent saying, in fact, how well this woman was treated. Here she is.
She said doctors came every couple of days, and she described the treatment by Hamas as good, saying that her captors made sure the conditions were sanitary and that they were very friendly to the people who had been captured, and that they took care of all of their needs.
An extraordinary omission, but Garth, the anti-Jewish hatred, I'm not saying that was motivated by hatred, could just been stupid reporting. Now, there is sick. I mean, I'll give you another example. This poster at Hope Street Community Radio in Collingwood, Melbourne. Free Palestine from the colonising dumb white dogs. Abolish Israel. An Aboriginal art collective, the Mob Arts Collective, organised this banner-making event. Have you ever seen anything in your life like this? Outright racism in our streets.
I hoped I never would, Andrew. It's absolutely terrible. Let's not let ABC off the hook too quickly, because the point you've raised tonight is the second transgression after the reporter pushing back on the beheading of babies report coming out. So ABC have got form here. They're well put themselves out as to where they want to be reporting this from. They want to be as pro-Hamas as possible. But to see this sort of division in our streets, it's important to remember, Andrew, this is the stuff that we were trying to fight against in The Voice. These are the same elements that are trying to divide Australia on issues of race, on religion, on the unimportant things that divide us, and not focus on the things that bring us together. And quite frankly, in a time of war, which is what we're seeing in the Middle East, we need to be together. We need to be focused and standing with our allies, shoulder to shoulder, with complete clarity. We're with you, Israel, 100%. And Hamas, this war that has started, is a war that you have wanted, that you brought about, that when you went into Israel and committed these terrible, terrible crimes, this is the outcome you were seeking. And we need to remind people that's why we're here. That's why we're in the situation we're in.
That is a very important point, Garth, because Hamas, to this day, is still firing rockets into Israel. So there you go. Michael Costa, Garth Hamilton, thank you both for your time.